it's not a coincidence that deficits and debt skyrocketed when the gold standard was removed. And so whatever has to come about, there needs to be some responsibility of not creating money that you really don't have. Now, some people, we say we got to go back to the gold standard. I don't know that. My mind can't think that many zeros to how much real paper is out there and how much gold that would need and what would the price of the gold have to be.
De-dollarization has gained prominence in the past year, driven by the ascent of Brics, coupled with concerns about the growing U.S. debt and the weaponization of the U.S. dollar. This has led many to question the longevity of the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency in an increasingly multipolar world. Peter Grandich, founder of Peter Grandich and Company, urges caution regarding the current monetary system and explores alternatives, explicitly focusing on the potential role of gold in underpinning a new system. Intergovernmental organizations like Brics, ASEAN, SCO, and the Eurasian Economic Union, collectively representing a substantial portion of global GDP, are also interested in using local currencies for trade invoicing and settlements. The strategic move towards diversification reflects a broader trend away from the U.S. dollar-centric global financial system. Highlighting the strategic moves of the Brics nations, Peter Grandich notes that they are reportedly amassing significant amounts of gold, not for speculative or trading purposes, but potentially to legitimize a future trading system. The Brics nations have been at the forefront of this trend since the 2008 global financial crisis, consistently increasing their gold reserves, with 2022 and 2023 witnessing the most significant buying in this trajectory. Jim Richards, in statements, echoed multiple times, including a tweet from Q1 last year. Central Bank of Russia reported a gain of 30 metric tons in its gold reserves. That's after a year of flatlining, more likely due to non-reporting than non-acquisition. Nice to see Russia back in the game. Peter Grandich underscores the complexity of returning to the gold standard, citing the vast amount of paper money currently in circulation and the challenge of determining the appropriate gold reserves. Fed Chair Jerome Powell may downplay the correlation between money supply growth and inflation, but printing so much money in 2020, long after conditions had stabilized, was a policy mistake. Join us as we delve into insights shared by Peter Grandich. To stay updated with our latest uploads, subscribe to our channel and activate notifications. Thank you.
What is the best monetary system in your view? How should it work?
Well, it worked fairly well when we had a gold standard because it brought in some fiscal responsibility. It's not a coincidence that deficits and debt skyrocketed when the gold standard was removed. And so whatever has to come about, there needs to be some responsibility of not creating money that you really don't have. Now, some people, we say we got to go back to the gold standard. I don't know that. My mind can't think that many zeros to how much real paper is out there and how much gold that would need and what would the price of the gold have to be. I do know, as history has shown, no one currency ever remains the main world currency, and the dollar's days are numbered, and the BRIC nations desire, especially key countries there, to acquire large sums of gold are not for speculation, are not for trade, but eventually in some manner, which I don't know what it is, or I don't believe I'm capable of my mindset to develop it for them, but I suspect that they are going to use that in some manner to demonstrate that whatever they use for trading, either just among themselves or they decide to go with an alternative to the dollar as a world reserve currency or something in between, that it has legitimacy behind it and something that money could be turned in for versus, the full faith and credit of the United States, which it says in our dollar bill, which isn't worth the paper it's printed on right now. While a handful of people have moved up the ladder and some to the real elite level, the vast majority of Americans in the last few decades at best went sideways and in most cases went backwards. And more people are falling down on that level. You just have to look at places like food banks where it's double or triple the number of people now coming there, and people of working class and a fairly means working classes. The average American not only is working paycheck to paycheck, but doesn't even have $1,000 saved for emergencies and all. That's why when we had the fraud of all frauds, the COVID, within a few weeks, we had to create trillions of dollars because all these people really couldn't keep going. They didn't have any survivability financial wise and all. I think that was a great indication of if things really get bad, how bad it can get. And so I don't know of, I don't have, I know they're very powerful as humans, and what these groups can do, and the Soroses and all these others. But for me personally, to answer to you is, as long as they can't steal my soul, which they can't, then I'm okay. If the point gets to the point that somehow they've managed to steal my soul, and no matter what I do, I can't go in a certain direction, then I'd be mad.
Peter Grandich asserts that economically, socially, and politically, the world has set the stage for a challenging period that may endure for a generation or even longer. In a geopolitical context, United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres expresses concern over Israel's government rejecting a two-state solution to its conflict with the Palestinians. Guterres deems this stance unacceptable and warns of potential repercussions, suggesting that it could embolden extremists worldwide. This geopolitical dynamic adds another layer of complexity to the already intricate global scenario. Further complicating matters is China's proactive stance in promoting increased use of the yuan in international trade. China, notably through its cross-border interbank payment system, is challenging the dominance of the dollar-centric clearinghouse interbank payment system. This strategic move by China introduces a new dimension to the ongoing shifts in the global economic order. Observing societal trends, Grandich notes a pattern where individuals, irrespective of their income levels, tend to adopt a lifestyle at least one level above their actual income. Let's get back to the interview.
I don't normally get to the blood in the streets argument, because one of the things that I used to hear about, well, I own gold because when things get really, really bad and I'll be able to survive. And I always say to people, there's going to be people that don't own gold that survive also. And their main mission is going to be to find the people that still have the gold. And you won't be able to have enough gold or a big enough army to hold them off. I certainly don't want to get to that. I don't want to get to where I would have to feel that I need to build a survival tent. But I do think here we have set the stage economically, socially, and politically for a dire period that will last, I think, a generation or a lot longer than what we've been used to. We've only had these hiccups and bumps in 40 years of basically a markets that kept going up. And I don't think I can only speak for Americans. In my planning group, I still see 7 out of 10 families at different levels of income, including when I dealt with athletes, all live a lifestyle at least one level above their income. Until that changes, and until we no longer have every 3 miles public storage facilities where people are paying people to keep stuff there that they can't keep back in their big 4,000 square, 5,000 square foot homes, I think it's a challenge. And I don't think there's any one answer. I know on one side, certain people think a certain person answer. On another side, they think it's a way of thinking. I think that this issue is coming irregardless of who or what tries. Some may defer it or maybe lessen the blow, but the blow's coming. I don't know if there's more of a secular industry than the finance world. I mean, I was told literally when this first started back in 2000, I went to the big firm we were working. I was with their compliance department. I told them what we wanted to do. And the guy basically said, hey, you could put a rock on the door, you could put a bull or a bear, but you ain't putting God's picture on your door. And, leave that for Sundays, was a kind of a line that I got and all. But for me, at least in the last half of a 40-year career, it became the basis to work from a foundation. But it is difficult. But one of the things that both Judaism and Christianity shares many things in common. One of them is that there's a good guy and there's a bad guy. And the bad guy has basically been worked out of the picture. Most people don't talk about it. Most people don't imagine it. And if they do, he's just a little red guy with a little fork in his hand. You and I think, because I've read your work and all, we also know that there's little red guys working at the Federal Reserve and in various administrations around the world. And so there's good and bad in everything, and there's good and bad in financing. But there are some moral principles that I think those of us who do decide to stand on scripture, and you take your chances with that, in that there's only three ways people are going to look at you, and I'm certain this has happened to you. You're either a charlatan, you're just using this to benefit yourself. I don't care, just make me money kind of people. Or where you've been, I've been waiting to find someone like you that shares these commonalities and believe we need to put our faith first. And for that, I found that I hope you would agree, even though I know where you're located, it's easier to sleep at night than it would be if I was doing the opposite of what those teachings were.
The Brics Bank, known as the New Development Bank, will soon release the bonds called Maharaja bonds, worth $28 billion. IRNA reported on Sunday, citing a press release by Watcher Guru, a website introducing itself as a leading source for finance focusing on cryptocurrency. How do you envision the future trajectory of the global financial system and its potential impact on currencies, gold, and economic stability? Share your thoughts in the comment section. If the video resonates with you, join our community by subscribing to our channel and enabling notifications with the bell icon. Thank you for being a part of our community.